right off the bat, about the passing of Dan Rooney, the longtime owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers. His passing stopped the football world, that's for sure, stopped the sports world. He is a titan. He is a giant. And that's obviously in the figurative sense. Literally, he is a Steeler. And this is a man whose dad bought the team. He bought the team in 1933, the year after Dan Rooney was born. That is how long the Rooney family has been associated with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Dan Rooney passed away yesterday at the age of 84. And for those of football fans who may not know about Dan Rooney because they're of a certain age, and I guess the only way I could put it is this: in the same way that you look around the ownership landscape right now and the power brokers, if you will, the ones who are alongside with the commissioner at the forefront of ownership and the membership in the National Football League, Bob Kraft of the Patriots, and now Jerry Jones, who will be joining Dan Rooney in the bust gallery at the Pro Football Hall of Fame this coming summer. Those are the guys who are right now the power brokers of the sport, at least the ones that are face forward in the most public manner, not just because of the number of championships that Bob Kraft is winning, but also just his influence within the meeting rooms, also within the broadcast centers of the National Football League. Same thing with Jerry Jones, very integral in the move of the Rams to Los Angeles and the Raiders to Las Vegas. In that way, Dan Rooney was that when he was running the Pittsburgh Steelers on a daily basis. And we could sit here and talk about their championships. Sixburg, as they refer to themselves, Steelers fans. 6 of them. And not just the championships, but the way that they win it. I'm a 47-year-old man. I was born in 1969. That was the first year Chuck Noll was hired as the coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Took it all the way to when Bill Cowher was the coach, and now Mike Tomlin. 3 coaches in 47 years. That is unheard of in any sport. Name the sport, unheard of. It's a certain way of doing business that you don't see anywhere else in any sport, in any organization. Patriots might be that after they hire a successor for Bill Belichick, and maybe, you never know. But it's the way that he does business. And then obviously his legacy on the sport. The Rooney Rule that you hear so much about, mandating teams to interview at least one coach of color before hiring anybody to fill the position. And in many ways, sometimes you hear the Rooney Rule bandied about, and it's mentioned how it's a token rule that teams just sort of tick the box by interviewing a person of color, by interviewing somebody who they have no intention of hiring, but they'll just tick that box. But then you hear from coaches who say that the interview process that they went through for the Rooney Rule helped them get ready for the job when it did finally arrive. And, it is something that is a lasting legacy on the National Football League. It'll be known as the Rooney Rule forever and ever. Now, sure, do we want to live in a world where we don't need a Rooney Rule? Of course. But here comes the owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers, who's essentially saying, I never hire new coaches, but let's figure out a way with everybody else who's hiring new coaches to do it the right way. And then, as we all know, the current coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers is a man of color in Mike Tomlin. It is a lasting legacy. And then there's the, we've always said it here. We don't want most fans don't want an 18-game regular season. I also don't want an expanded playoffs. I think it would dilute the product. I think it would also, it would also just extend the the season in a way that's just unnecessary. Dan Rooney was one of the owners who held a lot of the other colleagues of his at bay when they wanted to go to 18 games about a decade plus ago, saying, why are we adding 2 extra non-conference or non-divisional games? Why are we doing this? This was before player safety was at the forefront of a national conversation. Why do we want to do this? I mean, I read a great article by Tony Grossi in Cleveland, saying how the concept was if you think 3-13 is bad, how about 3-15? What do you think about that? And that sold a lot of owners on saying, let's not do this. And then I suggest you read this article. It's on ESPN.com as well. That Dan Rooney was integral in bringing the Browns back to Cleveland. The Steelers owner was the one who's basically saying, this is old school football. This is a natural rival for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He voted against Modell going to Baltimore.
Him and Ralph Wilson, the only 2 owners to vote against it.
And this is where we are in a day and age now where we're seeing movement around. Honestly, they broke the mold with Dan Rooney, the ambassador to Ireland for the Obama administration.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.